Welcome back to Code Jogging. Today we'll be looking at exploring the Android Studio interface. There are a lot of things you've been seeing on your screen since you launched the Android Studio, then you've been asking yourself, what am I going to do with all these icons? Yes, I believe you asked yourself those questions. And I'm going to help you to understand some of the icons you are seeing on your screen. And each of the icons has a purpose. For example, when you come to the top here, we have run, debug, then we have attach debugger to Android process. We have the sync project with Gradle. We have device manager, then we have the SDK manager. All these icons you are seeing here has its own purpose that it serves. And then we have a lot of list here. That sort of folder opened. Yes, that's right. This one is the parent folder. That's our project. And when you click on it, you can see that it's now dropping down the subfolders and then files in this folder. And when you go to this one, it means that it's showing the subfolder and then files in this one. So for example, if I want to access a file in my project and I don't want to go through the folder myself, since I've opened it here and I've opened the project here, I can navigate through the project folder at the top here. And with this one, when you get to a file, it gives you the chance to access a class, a method, anything inside the folder. For example, if you come to this side, you can see that we are having onCreate function here. That gives you the chance to navigate straight to the onCreate function, because this one is inside a class. That's the main activity class. But if you see main activity as a file, then you see that it's listing the method inside the file. So we have the greeting method, we have the greeting preview, and then we have the activity, that's the class. So for example, let's move this method to this side, and then let's see what will happen. So now let's go to the class. Now we've been seeing everything here. Okay, so now our project is not treating main activity as a file again, but it's rather treating it as a class, because anytime a file has one class, it treated the file as a class. But if it has multiple functions, classes inside the file, it treated it as a file. Okay, so that's how you can navigate through your project using the folder destination here. Okay, so now let's move on to the sidebar. That's the left side. We can see that we have the files that was showing at the top here. We are seeing the same thing here. Yes, that's correct. Just that Android Studio, they've added extra folder to it again. That's the grading script, and that one too contains subfiles, which you need it in order to work on your Android apps. Okay, so this folder contains all the files that you need to build your Android app. Some of the files is there, you have to work on it, you have to edit some of the files, and then some of the files you have to create them yourself. Let's say we want to work on a registration form. We don't have a registration form here, so what we can do is we have to create our own registration form class or our own registration form file. That one we can do that, and I'll show you which of the folders you have to do that in. Fine. Now let's check the res folder. That's the res or resources folder. The resources folder contains folders that helps you to group the resources file you might use in your project. For example, if you want to import images, videos, any file, it's advisable to have images inside this folder. That's the drawable. So if you have a drawable file, or that's XML file or PNG, JPEG, any image file, you can put them here, and then you can access it in your Android app. And then the MIP map, that's the map map, that one too contains the icon. So if you want to change your application icon, then you have to upload it here. And it's not necessary for you to have your Android icon to be WebP. You can make it as PNG. Then you have online tools that you can use to convert it to the sizes that we have here, because you have to have all the sizes here, so that any device that's your app is being installed on can pick their corresponding app icon and then add it to the device menu, app menu. Okay, and then we have the values here. That's where we have our colors, string, themes. For now, we have only one theme here. Yeah, we have only one theme here. When we want to switch from daylight mode to dark mode, we will add extra theme to this one, and this is where we declare our strings that we want to use on our app. For example, in case we want to display something went wrong to the user, because the app won't be used for only one language, we have to declare something went wrong here, so that we can also translate it to a different language. And then we have the themes here. That's if the person, now the default theme here any color you specify here is a daylight mode. Okay, so with the compose UI, because we will not be using this side always, there is a way of switching back and forth daylight mode, because now if you followed the previous tutorials, then you realize that though we didn't do anything, but when we switch from day mode to dark mode, we realize that the interface also changes. So we will handle that one. And then the XML file, that's if you have some constraints and some extra files that you want to use to configure your file or your app, you can add them here. Like we have this one, that's a configuration, that's the data extraction rules, and then we have the backup rules here. We have a lot of files that we can create. We can create here. We can create raw. So when we come here, then let's say you want to create a file like this, then we give it a name. Instead of selecting values which already exist, that's the resources type, there we can come and then select layout, menu, navigation, transition, and then animation, animator. We can create a lot of files here, but this tutorial is to navigate you through the Android Studio interface. Now we are done. Let's move on to the Gradle script. With the Gradle script, it gives you the chance to declare all your the API versions you've been using here. That's the top level build file where you can add a configuration options common to all sub projects or modules. Yes, so we are now using Android version 1.7.20, and then the library is 8.1.0 alpha 2. The same thing applies to the application. We'll be using this one often. So let's move on to where we can import an API or a library into our app. All these things you are seeing here is a library. That's the basic setup for Compose UI app. If you are using a different language or a different framework to build your Android app, you'll be familiar with this side. This is where we import all our libraries into our project. And anytime you input a library here, let's change this one to, let's say 1, then the Android Studio tells us that Android Studio tells us that there's a new Gradle, or we've changed the Gradle file. Then you have to sync it. You can click on this one to sync it, or you can move up to this side and then click on sync project with Gradle files. Both icons or both decisions here will make the same result. So you just click on it, but we are not going to use it because we've not changed anything. It's likely maybe this version doesn't exist, and when you sync it, it won't tell you until you start building your app. Then Android Studio will tell you that it couldn't find this library, so you have to do it yourself. Okay, so we have reverted it back. Now let's move on to the ProGuard rules. Most of the Android tutorials you'll be watching won't show you how to use the ProGuard rules. Here we used to specify the classes or libraries or whatever codes we have in our project to be run as it is in the project. For example, for you to optimize your app, you need to string it. You need to reduce the app size. And when you are stringing your app, Android Studio converts the codes to a different thing that it understands. So using the ProGuard here, we are telling Android Studio that whatever codes we are having in this folder, you should not touch it. Leave it as it is. Okay, so I think for now these are the basics that you need to know. And then anytime you create a model, you can come here. So we are having only one model, that's the app model, that's the top here. So the folder you are seeing here is a model. So you create a lot of models and you know how to use it. Okay, so now let's move on to the down here. Now the down here we have version control, we have profiler, we have log cut, app quality insight, to do, problems, terminal, services, and then app inspection. Okay, now if you are looking at the app inspection, we are looking at where we try to access the database for our project. We have a lot of database engine that you can use, SQLite, Room database, we have a lot, and these are a few I know. So if we've linked our project to our database, this is where we can access the database. And then let's look at the services. Anytime you are running a service in our app, we can monitor them here. And the terminal is the same as the normal terminal that we have in Mac. Okay, so it's the same as this terminal, but this one, it has already navigated you to the Android project we are working on folder. Okay, and then we have the problems here. Since there's no problem here, if there's a problem in our project, you'll find them here. Project errors, there's none. And then let's move on to the log cut. That's this one, will be using it often. This one gives you the state of your application. Because we are having package mine here, it means that we've limited ourselves to only our application. So anything that's going on in our app will be displayed here. Like now, it's giving us the status that the first, when I launched the app, it crashed, and then I launched it again, then it started running. So now it's still running. Okay, now we have the run. The run is when you click on the run app this side, and here is where you select in case you have a multiple devices connected, or you prefer using the emulator. Okay, so now I have connected my Android device here, and then I have the emulator here. But if you are going to use the emulator, then we click on the run, or any device you select here, you can click on the run. Okay, so you can select multiple devices, and then in case you want to run on your emulator at the same time, run it on your physical device, you click on OK, then it will start running. So once the app displays on your device, that's the emulator or the physical device, then a run is a summary of the log cut. It will limit some of the things you are not supposed to see inside the log cut. Okay, and I believe when you start building our app, we will see how the run works. Okay, and then now we have, let's navigate to our main project. So now we are seeing 3 folders here. This is the project folder, that's the app folder. Any file that you want to use, you want to write a Kotlin file, a Kotlin code inside it, you have to create the file here. For example, if you want to create a file called maybe sign up, you don't need to add any extension to it because you already selected Kotlin and the default is a class, so you can select the type here. Okay, so now you see we've created a class here, and if you want to use this class, we can write our code, let's say registration form, then we are done. The same thing, we can write function validate phone number, which receives one parameter, that's phone string. You shouldn't worry yourself about how I'm writing it, but this is a sample that I want to show you how you can create a file. We'll be handling this one in a different video. Okay, so you shouldn't get confused whatever I'm typing here, and whatever we are doing here is to help you to know how to create your Android app in the simplest way. Okay, so let's continue. Now we've created it here, it means that we can access it in a different file or whatever. So now we can come here and then let's say let's call one class here. I'm just showing you the reason why I said you should create all your files here. So you can have registration and it won't work. Why? Because we are not importing anything. Okay, so if you have let's say sign up dot registration, then we can access a registration file here because they are in the same folder. Okay, so we are having 2 folders here, which you don't need to know much about it. Okay, fine. And let's say you've opened all your folders here. Let's say you've opened all your folders here, and then you want to navigate to a particular folder, but you wish you can collapse all the folders at once. Is there a way of doing that? The answer is yes. When you come here and then you click this side, it shows you collapse all. Then it collapses all your folder for you. Then you are free to navigate through to wherever you want to go. Okay, now you can see this side. Let me open the folder here, the activity file here. You can see we have code, split, and then design view. This one default is showing the code view here. When you split it, we are going to show both code view and the design view. So this is the design view, and the design view at times it takes a lot of time to render it. So why are we having the design view here? It's because we are having this one on top of this function. Okay, and then we can switch to a design view where we won't have a code view. Okay, we will handle these issues and resolve it, the reason why we are having render issue. Okay, I think yes, these are the basic features I want you to exploit in the Android Studio interface. If you have any questions, you can leave it in the comment section. See you in the next video. Bye bye.